Nyleen Kay Marshall was a bright, curious and independent 4-year-old child, born on September 18, 1978, to Bill and Nancy Briscoe. The couple divorced shortly after Nyleen was born, and she was subsequently adopted by her stepfather, Kim, using his surname of Marshall. Nyleen had 2 siblings, an older brother and a younger sister, and the family resided in Warm Springs Creek in Alhambra, just south of Clancy, Montana, in what was deemed a typical American Mormon family. On June 25, 1983, 4-year-old Nyleen accompanied her family to a radio operator event at a picnic site with friends in the Helena National Forest in Montana's Elkhorn Mountains. The area where they gathered was an expansive, heavily forested region, perfect for a summer day outdoors near a rundown cabin. According to numerous reports, Nyleen was seen playing by the shallow waters of Maupin Creek, near the picnic area with a number of other children, trying to catch frogs up by the beaver dam. She was seen a short distance behind the children at one point, sitting alone by the beaver dam, wearing a yellow t-shirt and a pair of orange shorts, walking barefoot. At around 4 p.m, however, Nyleen mysteriously vanished. At first glance, it appeared that Nyleen had wandered away from the group of children she had been playing with, whilst her mother, Nancy Marshall, attended to her infant sibling. Initially, no one was alarmed, as the children had been playing close by. However, when several minutes passed without a sign of her, panic began to set in. 2 of the children who had been playing nearby recalled to authorities later on that Nyleen had been talking to a man in the area before she disappeared, with the man reportedly telling the 4-year-old to, quote, follow the shadow. He was described as being of medium build and height, wearing a purple jogging suit, though the children could not provide any further details about his appearance. The man was never identified, and no conclusive evidence ever linked him to Nyleen's disappearance. Other articles, however, state that an argument had broken out between the children, and as a result, Nyleen had run off. What exactly transpired remains a little foggy. Upon realising that Nyleen was missing, her family and other picnickers immediately began searching the surrounding area. The Elkhorn Mountains, known for their dense forestry and rugged terrain, presented significant challenges. When they were unable to find any trace of her, the authorities were notified. An intense search operation was subsequently launched, involving over 200 volunteers, helicopters, horseback teams, and search dogs trained to track scents across mountain ridges, through creeks, and down mine shafts. The search efforts lasted for approximately 10 days, but no sign of Nyleen, no footprints, clothing, or other personal items was ever found. Given the absence of clues, investigators initially speculated that Nyleen may have simply wandered off into the wilderness and gotten lost. The area is known for its wildlife, including bears, and there was concern that she may have been attacked by a predator. However, after days of scouring the mountains through heavy rain and thunderstorms, searchers found no evidence to support this theory. According to morbidology, the fact there was no traces of her, such as discarded items or even small footprints, led to growing suspicions of foul play. The possibility of abduction soon became the dominant theory, especially after witnesses recalled seeing a strange man near the picnic area. Even Nyleen's uncle later recounted seeing a mysterious man and woman the day after Nyleen vanished during the search for her, who resembled a composite sketch of a couple wanted for child abduction. The case then took a strange and troubling turn, nearly 3 years after Nyleen's disappearance, when authorities received a disturbing letter, purportedly from someone who claimed to have abducted her. According to reports, the National Missing and Unidentified Persons System, also known as NamUs, Child Find of America or the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, sources heavily conflict on this specific detail, received an anonymous typewritten letter postmarked in Madison, Wisconsin, in which the author claimed to have Nyleen and said she was alive and well. The letter was detailed, with the writer claiming that he was taking care of a girl named Kay. Quote, "I picked Kay up on the road in the Elkhorn Park area between Helena and Boulder. She was crying and frightened, and as I held her, she was shaking, and I decided that I would keep her and love her. I took her home with me." The man claimed to have income from investments and spent his time educating Nyleen at home and had travelled with her across numerous US states to locations including the likes of San Francisco, New York City, Oklahoma City, New Orleans, Nashville, Chicago and Puerto Rico, and even across Canada and the British Isles. He claimed that Nyleen was happy and knew her family missed her, but he couldn't let her go. Quote, "I love her and I have her. I just can't let her go." Interestingly, the letter contained information about Nyleen's disappearance, details which were never released to the public, adding at least some credibility to their claims. More disturbingly, the letter included graphic descriptions of a sexual nature, leading investigators to take the letter seriously as a potential clue to Nyleen's whereabouts. It seemed highly unlikely that the letters were some sort of cruel hoax, though it hasn't been ruled out. Shortly after the letter was received, a man claiming to be the same individual made several phone calls to law enforcement agencies and child protection agencies, including Child Find of America and the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, reiterating that Nyleen was with him. The caller's description of Nyleen and their supposed life together was consistent with what was written in the letter, but the male caller provided no verifiable details, such as a specific location. The phone calls were traced to a number of phone booths in Edgerton, Wisconsin, but despite numerous investigations and interviews, the identity of the man was never uncovered, and the authenticity of his claims remain in question. Oddly, after the locations of the phone booths were publicly identified, the phone calls ceased. The letters and phone calls prompted renewed investigation, but unfortunately they led to yet another dead end. The FBI and local law enforcement scoured the Wisconsin area, hoping to find the letter writer or any signs of Nyleen Marshall. Several potential suspects were questioned, with Nyleen's stepfather also being considered a person of interest during their inquiries, but no concrete evidence emerged linking any of them to the case. As time passed, Nyleen's case grew colder. The remoteness of the area where she disappeared, combined with the lack of physical evidence, made it difficult for investigators to follow any new leads. Theories abounded. Some believed that Nyleen had been abducted by someone who knew the area and had planned the crime in advance, while others speculated that she had been taken by an opportunistic stranger or had been victim to an animal predator, despite no evidence of this being the case either. The possibility that she had wandered into the forest and met with an accident, for example falling down a mine shaft, could never be completely ruled out, although the lack of any trace of her suggested otherwise. Throughout the years, Nyleen's case continued to attract media attention. It was featured on high-profile television programs like Unsolved Mysteries, which generated additional tips from the public, but failed to produce any substantial breakthroughs. Following the episode of Unsolved Mysteries airing in November of 1990, a tip came into authorities from a teacher in Vancouver, British Columbia, who was convinced a student of hers was Nyleen Marshall. But in a shocking twist, despite the girl not being her, it turned out to be another missing child, Monica Bonilla, who was abducted by her non-custodial father Guillermo when she was 5 years old from Burbank, California. After John Lennon was shot, Guillermo's behaviour changed radically, and he believed that Lennon had been reincarnated within himself. The school found the father of this young girl, who went under the name of Mary Ann Cayleigh, to be acting very suspiciously, as he never answered any of their calls and refused to give them his home address. On one occasion, he dropped the child off at school, but peered through the classroom window to check that she was definitely in there, which set alarm bells off with her teachers. Robert William Kelly, as he was known at the time, underwent surveillance by the FBI, who initially assumed him to be Nyleen Marshall's abductor. But after a search warrant was granted of the property, official documentation revealed their true identities: Guillermo and Monica Bonilla, who was 13 years old by this time. She had been told by her father that her mother was deceased. However, this was not the case, and mother and daughter were later reunited. Thanks to the Unsolved Mysteries segment that aired that night, 3 missing children were reunited with their loved ones, but unfortunately, none of them were Nyleen Marshall. In 1991, a man named Richard James Wilson confessed to killing Nyleen and another woman, but was found to be suffering severe mental illness. He had a previous conviction for sexually assaulting a minor. He was arrested, however, police had to release him after failing to find any concrete evidence to charge him in relation to Nyleen's disappearance. An unnamed individual confessed to murdering Nyleen and burying her body down a mine shaft in Helena, but whether this was the same individual is unclear. Nothing was found at the alleged burial site, and the mine shaft has since been sealed. Media coverage also highlighted the personal toll that the case took on Nyleen's loved ones. According to Morbidology, Nyleen's mother, Nancy Marshall, publicly expressed both her hope that Nyleen might still be alive and her torment and anguish over the years of uncertainty. The letters and phone calls from the alleged abductor were particularly painful for the family to deal with, as they presented a mixture of hope and dread, especially given the sexual nature written in the letter. Hope that Nyleen might still be alive, and dread at the thought of the abuse she may have endured. Sadly, the Marshall family succumbed to further tragedy when Nyleen's mother was robbed, assaulted, and murdered in a motel room in Mexico City in 1995, left hanging from a shower rod, leaving further devastation in tow. The family had moved to Japan in 1994 for Kim's work, but his next place of employment was to be in Mexico, so Nancy flew over to view houses. She had been seen the night before with friends and was reportedly in good spirits. Her death dealt the Marshall family another heavy blow, especially after authorities initially ruled her death a suicide, though it was further investigated. Interestingly, in 1997, a nurse at a hospital in New Orleans reported a potential sighting of Nyleen and her possible abductor. According to this nurse, a 19-year-old woman named Helena visited the hospital with an unidentified male to be seen in regards to giving birth there. The woman told the nurse that she thought her mother may have been called Nyleen and that she grew up abroad. However, she didn't have a foreign accent. She claimed to have no recollection of her childhood. When staff at the hospital questioned the couple further in regards to their identities and medical histories, they mysteriously left the hospital without trace. According to one source, the woman was eventually traced in Oklahoma City and had her blood drawn to compare to Nyleen's parents, but sadly, they were not a match. Sadly, since then, no further leads have been established in this unsettling case, which leaves many more questions than answers. The disappearance of Nyleen Kay Marshall remains one of Montana's most haunting unsolved mysteries. Despite the extensive search efforts, the letters and phone calls, and the decades of investigations, no definitive answers have emerged. As time has passed, the case has grown colder, with fewer new leads and increasing frustration for both her family and law enforcement. Though investigators have not given up hope, the passage of time has made it increasingly unlikely that Nyleen will ever be found alive. However, the possibility does still remain. For her family and those who continue to follow the case, the search for answers is far from over. Whether through new investigative techniques, breakthroughs in forensics, or the chance that someone with knowledge of the case comes forward, Nyleen's fate remains a mystery that many hope will one day be solved. At the time of her disappearance in 1983, Nyleen Kay Marshall was 4 years old. She was described as Caucasian, with brown hair and blue eyes, standing at 3 feet 2 inches tall and weighing approximately 29 pounds. She notably had a small mole above her left eyebrow and dimples on both of her cheeks. At the time she disappeared, an upper left baby tooth was also chipped. She also notably had excess hair on her lower back and was right-handed. Marshall was last seen wearing a yellow t-shirt and a pair of shorts, reportedly orange, with no socks or shoes. Due to the circumstances involved, this case is classed as a non-family abduction. Various age progression images of Nyleen have been created over the years to depict what she may look like today. If Nyleen Marshall is still alive today, she would be 46 years old. Those with any information regarding the disappearance of Nyleen Kay Marshall are urged to contact Jefferson County Sheriff's Office at 406-225-4075.